welcome back to Matt Talk Sports. Sorry about the delay. We've been out a couple of weeks, but we are back. Michael's back here. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing great. Glad to be back.
I think we may have lost our ranking. I looked, got another email on the charts, and we are now unranked.
Oh, no.
Yep. So that's what happens when you take a couple weeks off. But we're going to get it back. We're going to get it back, and we're going to get that top 1,000.
Better than ever.
And we've got Gerardo here. How you doing, Gerardo?
Well, I figured you guys had dropped off from the rankings, so I'm here to bring it back.
You're here for a ratings boost?
Well, I think
to pop the number?
I think the week after I was on was when you said you guys were ranked. So,
I guess that's true.
Clearly, it's me. So I'm.
Yeah.
Welcome back, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Can't argue with that logic. Anyway, with missing 2 weeks, we have a ton of stuff to get to. So we got a lot to cover. What are we going to hit first? News. Big news this week. Jalen Ramsey. Michael, do you want to give us the rundown on that deal?
Yeah, Jacksonville got a pretty good haul. 2 first-round picks, a 4th-round pick, and that's it. They didn't have to give anything up. Like, they didn't swap anything else. It was just Ramsey for those picks.
To the Rams. Yeah. I don't know if you said that. I would, but yeah, to the Rams.
To the Rams.
So, yeah, it's a big move for the Rams. I mean, they're getting an elite player without giving up a player, so it's great for this year. But I think they gave up too much. I'll just start out right there and say that. For me personally, I look at their roster, and if you take in the Goff deal that they just did, so they're locked into Goff, and he's now got, I think it's like 110 or 112 or something guaranteed, and then the Gurley contract from last year that's looking horrible for them, plus Donald is on a huge contract. They've just got a lot of really big deals, and so you're really going to be cap-strapped over the next few years, and the way you build is through the draft. When you're a cap-strapped team, you got to rely on nailing the draft and getting good rookies. So they really need to win right now to justify this deal, and they're sliding. They're 3-3 now.
The only way, money-wise, I think they can make it work is if they sign Ramsey now long-term and prorate, just things in different spots, so he's a little bit higher paid now, and down the line it's not so crazy.
Yeah. I think I don't remember where I saw it, but I think that's kind of how they have the Goff deal worked out, is that the cap hit isn't as bad in certain years, and I think it was either the second or third year that had a lower cap hit. So, I mean, I'm sure they've got a plan for it, but I don't know, I'm sure they know more about it than I do, so I don't want to speak out of turn there, but to me it was like, I don't know. You really are going to need to build through that draft. Plus, their team is not perfect right now. It's not like they were one corner away from the Super Bowl. I mean, they already had a decent defense. So, I don't know. To me, it was kind of questionable to give up that much. Gerardo, do you have thoughts on that one?
I was going to say Goff's been pretty awful this year.
Goff has been awful. He's been really,
all right.
Really bad.
I was going to hold back. On the Rams dad joke.
Oh,
but
but
after you said Goffle, I don't feel bad about it.
We're all about the dad jokes, and yes, he's been Goffle. He's been really bad. The running joke now has been that Vikings fans can cheer up about the Cousins deal because it could be worse. They could have Goff on that deal.
Yeah, I guess.
So
what
a lot of people were saying is McVay was talking to him pretty much to the 15-second mark, which is how long you can talk to your quarterback through the headset.
Mm-hmm.
Now teams defensively just aren't adjusting until 15 seconds hit. So now he's kind of just lost without McVay there holding his hand.
Yeah, it's forcing him to make the reads and make the adjustments, and he's not up to it. Or at least that's what it seems so far.
And he is, Gurley isn't really there, so it's kind of hard to say that's the only reason they're struggling. But
that's another thing, too, that I don't feel like people are really talking about very much is we even mentioned on one of our podcasts that last year when the Gurley injury happened, the offense looked completely different. And everyone kept crediting, C.J. Anderson got a bunch of yards, and they were filling in and still getting rushing yards, but they were not scoring as much.
I think
so. Whatever
I'd have
the
to go
difference
back
was,
and watch those games to see if
same here
that defensive thing holds true. Like if maybe it started a little sooner than we thought.
Yeah, but it certainly seemed like there's a noticeable drop-off. I even mentioned it, I think, on our preseason or early in the year that their points per game dropped drastically when Gurley went out. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of continuing because they're playing like crap this year with Gurley not being very useful. I mean, like crap is hard, but for expectations because they were expected to be a Super Bowl team, and they don't look like one.
They got through the postseason last year without Gurley, so...
Yeah, but that's what I was saying is their points per game dropped a lot.
Right,
and we
but
covered that. They still won games,
the
so yeah,
defense
they
was
held on, but they
strong.
were steamrolling teams
Last
in
year
the
they
regular
had
season.
they had Sue and
Yeah.
and everything. So
Yeah.
Their
and
team-
they had both corners then, right? Because right now,
Yeah, but they
so-
didn't have Cooper Kupp, so I think that was also part of part of the factor of what dropped the points per game. But I mean, I don't know. There's a lot that goes into that. Plus, in the postseason, you're just playing better teams, so that also would be a factor.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think it's good for them now. I just worry about what it does to them long term. But man, this week they got punched in the mouth. That 49ers team, I've been hyping them up all year. I've been a buyer on that, but they dominated that
that
game.
D line is performing insane right now.
Yeah, the Niners, that game was one of those games where the score didn't even indicate how much of a blowout it was. I watched like every second of that game, and then the Rams never had a chance. They just got dominated from start to finish.
They did on the first drive.
Well, yeah,
They
that's
went
true.
down and
That's true.
scored.
Yeah. I can't say start to finish because the first drive, the Rams looked really good, and they were running the ball down their throat. Brown had like 40 rushing yards.
He looked good right away.
Yeah,
and
he had like 40 rushing yards on the first drive, and then none the rest of the game. The Niners were like, all right, that's enough. You're done. I don't know. We can say the Niners haven't played enough tough competition, but they have just looked insanely impressive. I'm all in on that Niners squad.
What do you mean all in?
Like, I think they could win the NFC. I
Oh,
legitimately
okay.
do. I'm not
Oh, wow.
picking them. I'm not making any predictions about which team is better than another, but I think they're definitely in the mix of teams that could win.
I
So-
still, if it came down to it, I'd favor both the Saints and Panthers over them still.
Yeah, no, so that Saints and Panthers, that could be, let's save that. We'll go back to those two teams because I want to talk about how the backup quarterbacks have played. But yeah, those two are in it. Seattle, too. I've been really impressed with Seattle. So I've got like maybe
All of a sudden,
5 teams
Rams
or so.
dropped down to third in that division real quick.
Yeah, okay, let's think of it this way. We know how they stand right now. Niners are 5-0, Seahawks are 5-1, Rams are 3-3. How do you think those three finish?
I think Seattle takes a division.
Yeah, I think they would still be the favorite right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think in order wise, that's the order 1, 2, and 3 probably.
I think the Niners are going to win the division, but I think it's going to be very, very, very close.
close.
I think
Seattle get a
Seattle's
wild
been
card?
awesome. Yeah, Seattle. I think both definitely get in. I'm sold on both of those teams.
It's going to make it pretty hard for a lot of teams this
It
year in the
is.
NFC.
Yeah, the NFC is really, really tough right now. The NFC looks so much stronger than the AFC right now. They've got so many playoff-worthy teams.
You guys don't think Ramsey's enough of an X factor to put the Rams back into playoff contention?
No, they're definitely in contention. Yeah. But if I'm
It's just a
picking-
little too late, and we're not sure with offense how they're
Right.
doing right now.
If I'm picking, I would currently say the Rams miss the playoffs, but they're definitely in the mix. I mean, I'm not counting them out
I shouldn't have said
whatsoever.
contention. I should have said a lock, like the way you guys were talking about San Francisco and Seattle.
I feel
seeming
like San
a lock.
Francisco and Seattle are going to make it. If I was betting, I would bet on those two getting in. I would not bet on the Rams getting in.
You think they split between Seattle and San Francisco the games, or you think
I
one of
don't
them
know, but
sweeps
I'm
it?
excited to see them. Those two teams look like two of the best teams in the league right now, and I'm hyped to see them play each other. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I just don't feel that way about the Rams. They looked so outclassed on Sunday, and we didn't really talk about it. The other deal they made was they traded away Marcus Peters. So no doubt Jalen Ramsey's better than Marcus Peters, but it's not going from like a scrub to a superstar because Marcus Peters is good. So going from that to Ramsey isn't like a completely night and day defensive change because they already had a pretty solid corner there. So had they kept Peters and paired up the two of them together, I think that would have made a way bigger impact.
Is there a reason they didn't do that?
I would
probably
guess,
comes down to the money.
yeah, I was going to
Money
say
and-
contract.
Yeah.
I think that's what it came down to is they knew they had the deal worked out for Ramsey, and so they had to cut elsewhere. That would be my guess. I haven't read a ton about that, but that would be the only thing that would make sense.
But if Ramsey plays as well as he can, then it might be a night and day difference because
It's possible, yeah.
he's
but
a bona fide playmaker at peak, but he hasn't really been at peak this year. That might be due to motivation with Jacksonville or whatever.
yeah, I mean, he's clearly had issues there, but even disgruntled Ramsey has been pretty close to elite. He's pretty damn good.
Close to
so
elite, but then there's best corner in the league.
I think it's
taking everything
really,
away.
I think it's really just him and Stephon Gilmore in New England. Those two are in a class of their own.
That and we have Pat Pete back now, so we'll
Yeah,
see.
Peterson's back too. So think of the rest of the NFC. We've got the NFC North that looks like it has 3 teams, 4, maybe 4 teams that are in the mix for the playoffs. And then in the East, you've got the Cowboys and Eagles. And then in the South, you've got the Saints and Panthers. So there's just
we run out a lot of spots really quick.
Exactly.
Well, pause. Let's talk about the Cowboys because they were gigantic preseason favorites.
Yeah, and not even just preseason. 3 weeks into the year, I had them ranked as an elite team, and me and Michael disagreed on that. And as of right now, it looks like I was dead wrong because as soon as they went up against some competition, they folded. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason I liked them so much is that what they were doing against bad teams seemed replicable. Like they would be able to do that, and the talent was so far above a lot of the other teams, and it's still there. So I think they're just running into a little rough patch, which every team goes through. It's just at a very unfortunate time when they could have been really running away with this division. So I'm still pretty convinced the Cowboys are going to pull that division out. I don't think the Eagles are right. I mean, I saw them personally this week, and that secondary is a mess. Like, the Vikings ate them up so easily. They had multiple guys to choose from wide open downfield. And it wasn't on one play, it was on several plays. Yeah. That secondary is a disaster. I don't think they can compete with it right now.
I'll throw some numbers here, and everyone knows I'm a baseball guy, so I don't know how this translates to football. But the Cowboys are tied for 5th in the conference, but they have 8 teams ahead of them. Because there's teams obviously that are tied, in records and whatnot. Yeah, so it's a big jump. However, they have a plus 39 point differential, which is higher than Philadelphia and Chicago, who are both ahead of them, and it's also higher than Seattle and New Orleans and Green Bay.
That's in relation to the competition that they played early in the season.
Yeah, I know they crushed the Dolphins early in the year.
It's fun
and all
to look at, but that's not super relevant in football.
It's not.
No, because you play so few games, and so if you just have one monster blowout, it completely skews.
Yeah.
So that's
maybe at the end of the season, but right now, definitely not.
Do you, Michael? I don't know if we've talked about it before because I always love like the PFF stats and all the advanced stats. Do you ever look at DVOA from Football Outsiders? Yeah. The Cowboys are still rated really high. I think they were like top 5 in DVOA. And what that is for anybody who doesn't know is it's kind of like an all-encompassing number that gauges the success and efficiency of a team. They do offense, defense, and total. And in total DVOA, they were still really high, even with the 3 straight losses. So, I mean, I'm not the only one that's still holding out hope for them. A lot of the numbers do back up a bounce back.
They're missing their tackle.
Both.
Yeah.
In the Jets game, they were missing their left and right tackle.
Cooper's been hurt, but he's been hurt a lot. When there's small nicks here and there back to Oakland, but
that's another bring up too. Like if we talk about last year, how night and day their offense was when they got Cooper. So then it's easy to think without Cooper, they would go back to how they looked before Cooper. So maybe we need to think about how valuable he is to their offense.
Even when he is healthy, he has been known to disappear in games.
Yeah.
He can look like the best wide receiver in the NFL at times, and then you're asking yourself, where'd he go?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he has looked really, really good. Even this year, when he's been in the game, he's looked awesome. So I'm hopeful. I think the Cowboys are going to be fine. I think they're going to win that division because, like I said, I just am not believing in the Eagles right now. And with that said, Wentz, even in the loss, when we kind of beat him up a little bit, Wentz is really good. I love watching Wentz play, but he still goes through those weird little slumps where he'll play like a whole quarter looking like crap and then just hit some throws in a row where he just looks like the best quarterback in the world. But me personally, I really like Wentz.
Yeah, I still think the Eagles probably win this division if they get Jackson back anytime soon.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm not making like it's a lock. They're both 3-3 and they play this weekend. So I don't know. It's me personally, I just am leaning more towards the roster talent on Dallas being better over the course of the year, which is crazy to think because we had talked about Philly being like the number 1 roster talent team in the league, but it hasn't looked that way this year. They just look sloppy and disorganized. And, come to think of it, they didn't look great last year either. They kind of had like I don't know if you'd call it a Super Bowl hangover because they won, but they just didn't look the same as the year before. I wonder if we're underrating Frank Reich and the value he had when he was their coordinator in that Super Bowl year because their offense has not looked as sharp since then. Their team hasn't been as successful since then. And since he's gone to Indy, he looks like one of the best coaches in the league. So, I mean, maybe that was a bigger blow than we gave it credit.
I think it was a blow, but I think they've just been riddled with injuries really since then.
They were in 17 also, when they won the Super Bowl.
Sure, but that might have been just more of, lightning in a
they
bottle.
caught fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible, but I do want to give him a shout out, though, because that dude is an insanely good coach. And it's crazy, too, because he was their second pick. They wanted Josh McDaniels, and he flaked on him, so their backup plan was Frank Reich, and now looks like the best hire in the last few years.
Yeah, even without working with Andrew Luck.
Yeah, he's made so much out of nothing last week, beating the Chiefs. And maybe we should just have that conversation now, the Chiefs. What's going on there? Because that Mahomes injury, what was that, 3 weeks ago in Detroit? Yeah, I think he injured his ankle in Detroit.
He injured it initially the first game.
Was it the first game of the year?
Yeah.
Because did it get re-aggravated in Detroit?
Yeah, it's been
because
getting
I know
re-aggravated a couple times.
He was pretty healthy the first few games, and then that Detroit game is where he started seeming hobbled and kind of limping around, and they looked bad in that game. They almost lost to Detroit.
Pretty much every game he's come back looking healthy, and then he's had a misstep or he stepped on by his offensive lineman and it's re-aggravated it. And
the Oakland game, they had, one good quarter?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And so they didn't really look all the way there in that game. They just had one in red-hot quarter that won them the game. They didn't look good against Indy. They lost. And then this week, lost to Houston. I'm not even saying should. We are taking the Chiefs out of that elite status, right? They're not on the level of the Patriots.
No. Especially since that's probably the best defense in football right now.
Yeah.
And that's who they'd have to play. No, yeah, I wouldn't take them over the Patriots.
Yeah, and I think the last time we recorded, we had them pretty much neck and neck as the top of the league, and now they don't look close to the Patriots. And that defense is horrendous. That defense is god-awful. It can't stop anybody. And so when their offense isn't perfect, they can't win. And with injured Mahomes, he's looked pretty shaky the last couple weeks.
So they lost to Indy and Houston, two in-conference teams. The rest of the conference, who can beat them? Bills might be able to beat them.
The Bills are legit.
Yeah, the way they're looking. So that puts them fourth, and that's just
I don't know. I still think the Chiefs they have enough to still win their division. I'm not thinking they're going to slide that far. I think the Raiders are for real, and the Raiders are going to be there in the mix, but I don't think the Raiders are winning that division.
No, I don't.
And Denver's coming back. Denver's turned it around, and their defense is looking a lot better, but I don't think they're a playoff team.
That was against the Titans.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I'm like running through the division. The Chargers look like they are falling apart. The Chargers they're a disaster right now. So I just don't know what's going to...
Melvin Gordon should have stayed holding
Seriously,
out. They might have thrown some money at him.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking almost that he's to blame because I think the offense looked better before he came back. When they were just running it through Eckler, the offense was moving a lot better.
I think the Chiefs have a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way from what I'm looking at.
It's tough because it depends on how those three teams in the division play.
I agree.
And they pretty much lost home field.
I'm saying
definitely.
They've got a path to the playoffs, especially if the Chargers are as bad as we think they are.
They're in the playoffs. 100%.
I mean, okay. So maybe a path to first round bye?
Yeah. I mean, I still think they're going to probably end up getting that 2 seed, but it's not a lock like it felt 2 weeks ago.
Out of the conference.
Yeah, because the North isn't getting the...
No. Definitely not the North.
The South could, because both teams beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Close.
Whoever does win the South could, because like Michael said, they both have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs now. So it just kind of depends what the records end up in the South. But I would still favor the Chiefs. I think Mahomes is going to get his ankle healthy, and he'll go back to just lighting people up.
Yeah, they've got the Bears, the Patriots, and the Packers. And other than that, nobody really of note.
But those could be 3 losses.
Those could be 3 more losses.
And then
that's what I'm
jump
saying.
yourself
Those
up to
are
5 or 6 losses, and then
and
that's enough for the
if his
South.
ankle has problems and he's having to run away from great pass rushes, like Green Bay's been rushing the passer well. Khalil Mack, even though he did nothing a couple weeks ago, is still a great pass rusher. And then New England is the best
take
defense.
a drink. Michael got his Khalil Mack reference in.
He's the best player in the NFL.
No. I mean, speaking of that, though, we were talking about our Mack versus Donald conversation.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett is there now in that mix.
Yo, he got punched. You see that?
Yeah. But every time I turn on a Browns game, Myles Garrett just jumps off the screen, and I'm just like, holy crap.
Yeah, he's a
nobody can
beast.
block that dude. He's on their level now, I think, in terms of pass rushers. Like, he's in that conversation. You don't think so? You don't think he's there yet?
That's just a lot. Those two are.
I agree, but talent-wise, I mean, clearly he had the talent. He was, the number 1 overall pick in the draft 2 years ago?
I think he's great, and I think he'll probably be there. That's just hard for me to say.
Yeah, I mean, they've done it over a longer period of time, but from what I've seen this year, if we're just counting this year alone, not their whole previous history, he's totally on their level. That guy is a monster, which makes it even more upsetting how bad Cleveland is.
Yeah, that's a real shame, and it's really looking like, sure, the offensive line is bad, but
it's real
coaching,
bad.
you gotta think it's that rookie coach.
Man, I mean, Freddie Kitchens, what is that guy doing? Should he be on the hot seat in his first year? How do you feel about that? Because the media is definitely trying to put him there, but do you think he actually should be?
Yeah. He's not committing to the run when we've seen that's their formula for success, and he's playing. It sounds like he's calling plays to make people happy, like Odell happy, and
it's not working. Odell's not happy.
No, I know, but he's trying. And instead, just trying to win the game.
Gerardo, you were pretty in on the Browns last time we talked.
Yeah, with not much inside info at all. I was in on the Browns.
Have you caught any of the games since then?
Just the scores, really.
Yeah.
And I mean
highlights.
And looking at the stats and stuff, they look bad, dude.
It's painful to see how bad Baker's been. And I mean, it's tough to put it all on him because if the scheme and the coaching is as bad as we think it might be, then that affects it. But good players make something out of nothing. And Baker just looks like,
for me,
brutal.
I was going to say
bad.
that there's clearly something going on with just the coaching or just the chemistry of the entire team and the coaches, because there's so much talent on that team.
Yeah.
And it's just inexcusable
and it's healthy
that they
talent
should be
too. It's not even like they've been hit with injuries. They're healthy.
And they've been losing to teams they should have been beaten.
Yeah. And Baker, I think, leads the NFL in interceptions right now.
It's not close.
And he also leads by a lot in fourth quarter interceptions because he's been throwing them at crucial times. They're in close games.
It looks like he's trying to play hero ball
too much. Yeah,
without needing to.
It's been really, really bad. I'm not ready to just say he's a bust and pile dirt on the guy. I think he can still have a great career.
But teams are clearly gearing up for this game.
Yep.
As you saw, Bosa wave that flag.
Yeah. And all the talk from all the players on the Niners were all just like, we wanted to get that guy.
Yeah.
We needed to humble that guy, and they did. Another shout out to the Niners because that was a beat down then, too. And that's
prime time.
Yeah, in prime time, too. So the whole world got to see that one. It kind of like teams crossing paths. Like the Browns were clearly trending down, and the Niners clearly trending up.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to both keep going in those directions. I'm not confident in the Browns bouncing back this year.
Well,
they're
let's
not very
keep
far
it in
out of
division.
it.
No.
If he is on the hot seat, Freddie Kitchens, and he gets fired because they don't really do anything this year. There's talks of another coach in that division getting fired. Think they call him and Mike Tomlin?
Mike Tomlin. So that's the thing.
I don't think they should fire Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, if we want to have the Mike Tomlin conversation, the Steelers, that's been their franchise history, is they ride it out with a coach. They do not fire coaches lightly. They'll keep their coaches for 10, 15, 20 years. And Tomlin, we talked about it in the preseason podcast, has never had a losing season.
Correct.
So why, after one losing season, when he's had all the success he's had, would he be on the hot seat after 1 year? When you have a franchise and an ownership group that values stability over everything.
I don't think they should. I just think that there's been a lot of rumors
considering it.
All right,
I think that's a media
I don't think
creation.
they should, and it probably is. But
yeah.
If they did, it would be, like I'm saying, it would be a mistake.
Yeah.
Because Cleveland calls him immediately.
Absolutely. A lot of teams would. A lot of teams,
Falcons call him immediately.
Yeah. There was talk right off the bat when
call
Jay
him
Gruden,
immediately.
We didn't even talk about that in the news update, but Jay Gruden got fired last week, the head coach of the Redskins, and immediately the rumors were that Tomlin was one of the considerations.
You know who didn't get fired was Dan Quinn, but Michael's over here saying that Tomlin's the next coach of Atlanta.
Yeah, and I even tweeted that after that game or during that game.
I don't know how Dan Quinn still has a job. I don't.
Yeah, the Falcons are just getting lit up by everybody, and they got beat down by the Cardinals this week, who should not be beating the Falcons.
It's a dark
Dan
time.
Quinn, that's another one, like the conversation with Frank Reich. Since Kyle Shanahan left the Falcons, they've just been disappointing every step of the way since then. So I think Dan Quinn, that was what, 2016?
Is that the same for the Redskins, pretty much?
Since Kyle Shanahan
Yeah.
left? Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, because the years... Yeah, because that was Shanahan and then McVay took over after Shanahan. So I think they had one more good year after Shanahan left because it was Sean McVay. Yeah, and they've been bad ever since. So I think we underrate how big of an impact these coordinators can have. Not always, but they can. Like when you have the right one, he can really boost your team and make your head coach look a lot better than he is. And I think Dan Quinn got that boost from Kyle Shanahan, and they've been floundering ever since.
They're pretty terrible, man.
Yeah.
It's looking like a 3-13 season if we're lucky.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's. Yeah, I mean it could.
Let that just marinate for a little bit, and then just realize that I'm
how
right.
many wins do they have right now?
Wins?
Yeah.
One. They beat
one?
the Eagles in week 2.
So not 1-15.
No, but
A broken clock is right twice a day, so I think maybe they get one more win.
Yeah.
You want to call them?
And call
other
the
schedule?
call the
Yeah.
other win.
I mean, I don't see maybe the Bucks, but if they were playing right now, I'd pick the Bucks.
Yeah.
They will beat the Jags in week 16.
I don't know about that.
They beat Minshew, huh?
Falcons' remaining schedule: Rams. I don't think that's a win. Seahawks.
Loss.
Saints.
Loss.
Panthers.
Loss.
Bucks.
Loss.
Saints.
Loss.
Panthers.
Loss.
49ers.
Big loss.
Jags. Bucks.
So that Bucks game in week 17.
2-14.
Yeah, they 3-13 might be in play. You might be
Well,
right.
3-13 might be a success.
Yeah, he did start this by saying they'd be lucky.
I said 3-13.
Yeah.
No, I think we're exaggerating. They still have a lot of talent on
They
that
do have
team.
a lot
They're
of talent.
gonna be able to beat a couple of those good teams.
But
I just think they're gonna do that.
They look like a
We're
buff
going-
chicken with its head cut off.
Oh,
Just
boy.
doesn't know where it's going.
Oh boy, no, they're gonna get some big wins. I think that'll at least throw people off the scent.
Do you think so?
I do. I think they're still. Matt Ryan is still playing really, really well.
I just read you the rest of their schedule, man. Which
I know.
Which of those games do you think they're winning?
I think they're going to be an underdog in basically all of them.
Yeah.
So they'll probably cover some spreads.
No, I think they'll pull some upsets in there, but I think they're awful. I think they're really, really, really bad. But
And you can't. I guess you can't.
but I just think
take
with
away,
as much talent as they have and with a great quarterback, because Matt Ryan, like I said, is still playing really, really well. Even like all the advanced metrics, DVOA, like we talked about, QBR, he's still really high in everything. He's playing well.
Yeah, and you can't take away how close division games usually are.
Exactly.
That's
yeah.
the most
Playing familiar
frustrating thing
teams.
is that they're just completely wasting one of his prime years.
Yeah, they definitely are. And that defense looks awful. The running game has not been there. It's just basically been Matt Ryan on his own.
Yeah, and that defense just making the Titans and the Cardinals look like straight gods on offense.
Yeah.
Let's move on, boys.
Let's move on.
We've talked about
Let's
that.
move on. I was going to talk about the backup quarterbacks.
We'll take another drink.
Let's talk about him.
Minshew, we've professed our love for Minshew. I love him. He's been great. I personally think they should stick with him over Foles when Foles is healthy, because I just don't think there's that much long term with Foles.
No, yeah.
And I think Minshew being a rookie and on a
Foles-
cheap rookie deal, that could be like a gold mine right there, just in terms of like roster building with having a cheap quarterback.
Yeah,
that's how you do it.
Foles was more of a win now type move
Yeah.
when they thought Ramsey would be there and maybe the defense is going again.
And there's totally going to be a trade market for Foles. Like if they wanted to trade him in this offseason, it won't be mid-year, but in the offseason, I think you can definitely get something for Foles. There's going to be quarterback needy teams. I think it would be easy to deal him, and you got to just ride it out. You got a rookie quarterback who seems pretty legit so far. He's had his ups and downs. He hasn't been perfect, but he's a 6th round rookie, and he's playing way better than 6th round value.
But see, that's why I don't think you trade him in the offseason. And because what if it's just this 1 year? And
Could be.
We see what happens when sometimes teams get tapes on these young QBs, and all of a sudden they're
I think a lot of it is stuff that we can't even see. It depends on how things are looking like in the locker room, at practice, if Minshew is showing leadership and is actually the kind of guy that the team wants to build around and is got the buy-in of the rest of the team, which he might not. We have no way of really knowing that. He might just be playing pretty well, but is kind of a dick off the field. Doesn't seem that way to me. It seems like the team really likes him.
Kid and
yeah. So to me, it seems like he's the right type of guy to build around, but I'm just saying we don't really know what goes on behind closed doors, so that might be part of the reason why they want to go back to Foles. Because from everything we've heard, Foles is a great leader. Every team he's played with, everybody loves him. So other backup quarterbacks, Kyle Allen and Teddy Bridgewater are both 4-0. That's gone better than anybody could have hoped for those teams. I mean, it's 4-0. You can't be better than
definitely that. For the Panthers, it's been much better than expected. I expected Teddy Bridgewater to come out and kill it.
I mean, he's really only had the one game. 1 out of the 4 games, they really let him throw the ball, and he was beautiful. 300 yards. I think he had 4 touchdowns and just lit it up. The other games, it's just been the really restrictive short game play calling. But they've won. They've just kind of done what they needed to do. But, I mean, I think there's no doubt Breeze gets his job back as soon as he's ready. So that one's not really in doubt. Teddy's just kind of holding the fort. There's been still more Kyle Allen talk, though, about whether or not the Panthers should move on from Cam.
I don't see why.
That's the thing. I don't think Kyle Allen's been that great. He's been fine.
He's been not bad.
Yeah, he's played better than I expected.
And he's playing with Christian McCaffrey, who's playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah. He's getting the hard carry from McCaffrey. He's in the MVP conversation. I know people always just want to put the QBs, but nobody is carrying their team harder than McCaffrey is. Me personally, I think Cam Newton was just hurt.
Yeah.
We know he was hurt, and there was a noticeable drop-off last year when he tried to play through the shoulder injury. He got that healed, and the foot injury was clearly bothering him at the beginning of this year. So the last time we saw him healthy, he looked like better than he has in his whole career. So I don't know why you would turn away from that just because he got hurt. I think that's crazy, but if anything, Kyle Allen playing well buys them time.
Yeah.
So he can just wait until he is fully healthy.
When's Cam supposed to be back?
There's no really telling. It's supposedly a Lisfranc injury, and those are kind
of just wait and see things.
Yeah.
You just got to see if the pain goes away.
Solid shot. He just doesn't even come back this year.
Yeah, that is a possibility that he could take the whole year off.
I hope he doesn't feel pressure because Allen hasn't lost.
Yeah, and that could happen.
I don't think so, dude. I don't know.
Oh, he shouldn't.
He already admitted that he lied to the team about how bad the injury was early in the year just because he didn't want to sit out. And he just lied and said he felt fine. And so it's easy to see that if that talk keeps growing, that, hey, maybe we should move on from Cam. Kyle Allen seems good. And then he goes, oh, wait, my foot feels great. Let me get back into this game and get into the playoffs. You could see him forcing that and doing more damage or just not playing well. So I hope he doesn't. I hope he just gets healthy, gets right, and comes back full strength because we love Cam.
Yeah.
So speaking of McCaffrey, do you guys want to talk about the MVP race?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
I think the general consensus right now is that you've got McCaffrey, who's probably 4th behind Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, and Russell Wilson. Oh, you made a surprise face. You haven't been following this?
I haven't been following, and I just expected to hear Tom Brady in there.
No, I don't think.
No, not even.
I don't think Brady's even in the conversation right now because he hasn't been playing that great, and he just hasn't needed to. They just haven't really needed him as much this year. So I personally don't think he's even in the conversation.
All right.
And I think based on talk around the league, that would be consensus that it's pretty much those top 4.
Okay.
So basically, the last week or so, there's really been a big swell for Russell Wilson, and everybody is really jumping on the Russell Wilson train. Me personally, I think right now I'm with Deshaun Watson. I think it's been pretty wild. We kind of not made fun of, but we were saying how the Laramie Tunsil trade didn't make a lot of sense, and he didn't play well in his first game. But since then, that has changed that O-line. Their O-line just flipped. Deshaun Watson hasn't been sacked the last 2.5 games, and before that was like one of the league leaders in times sacked. So since that changed, Deshaun Watson, when you give that guy time, is just magic. I absolutely love watching him play. He beat the Chiefs this week, went head-to-head with Mahomes, and injured Mahomes, but still. And he outplayed him. I think he was great in that game.
Yeah,
he's been great in most of their games.
For the most part, I didn't watch that whole game. I watched highlights and a little bit more. Will Fuller dropped a couple touchdowns.
He did. That's what I'm saying. Like,
that probably could have been a blowout.
Yeah, Watson played fantastic and just was getting let down by his receivers. Hopkins dropped one too.
Yeah.
Will Fuller dropped a couple touchdowns.
Will Fuller. I've loved him for years. He's been hurt.
Yeah,
but, he's an explosive
every time he's
playmaker.
in the game, he's just like a touchdown machine.
Yeah.
But he's always hurt. But so now having him this year gave him 2 explosive weapons, and I love watching that team. The Texans are great. I personally think they're going to end up winning that division as much as I love the Colts. I just think the Texans are hot right now. They're hitting their stride. And then Mahomes, obviously, he's Mahomes. He's the reigning MVP. He's still doing similar numbers to what he did last year. His touchdowns are down a bit, but yards are still sky high, and he's the focal point of that entire team. Pretty much the only one doing work right now.
You said he got hurt this last week?
No, a couple weeks ago.
He's been on an ankle. Yeah.
He's had an ankle injury for like 3 weeks now, and there was a noticeable decline.
Yeah, never in any question to miss time. It's just about he's hurt it again a couple times in games.
Yeah, he just doesn't look quite the same. He can't plant as well in his throws. He's had more misses than he has ever in his career, which is only a year and a half long, but he's looked perfect for that first year and change, and then last few weeks finally showing some inaccuracy. But Russell Wilson has just been on another level lately. And I know me and Michael have talked about him a lot and how much we love when they do just put that offense through him instead of the running game, how it's just so great to watch. And Wilson always comes through. Like every time they do lean on him.
Well, not every time.
Well, sure. I guess that's true. He did throw a bad pass in a big game.
Yeah. Just
on the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
Threw it to the wrong guy. But that was years ago.
He's grown a lot.
He has. And I think back then, well, maybe not then, but those first few years.
That's when they wanted to, hand it to him.
He was more of a game manager then, and he was kind of just, doing what he needed to do. But it's flipped, and he is the guy now. He is an elite superstar quarterback, and he's playing better than he ever has.
If the season ended today, my MVP vote that I don't have.
Right.
I put that bad pass
one?
on the coach.
No.
You didn't get one for this?
It's because I moved.
Oh,
and,
right. They don't have your new mailing address? Yeah. I don't know. Right now, I think it's those two. It's Wilson and Watson. I think Mahomes has fallen out personally because he hasn't looked good for the last 3 games. So
or McCaffrey.
McCaffrey's there. I just think
I don't think the writers will give it to a running back.
Well, that's the thing. So it depends on if we're talking about our own personal vote or if it's realistically who's going to win. Because I think realistically McCaffrey has no shot.
The Panthers would have to go undefeated the rest of the season.
Yeah, and. The last one to win was Adrian Peterson in 2012, the last non-quarterback. And even then, people didn't like that and wanted it to go to Peyton Manning. So it just doesn't happen. Running backs don't win the award. And part of that Peterson one, too, was the whole narrative of him coming back early from the ACL and dominating, which we had never seen people come back like that from an ACL. So, and
Did he
McCaffrey
get comeback player of the year as well? Or
yeah.
No? Yeah.
So McCaffrey doesn't have that extra narrative going along with it, which is important for convincing writers. Doesn't have any relevance for football sense, but that whole narrative thing's part of the award. So, and I think the consensus around the league would say Wilson number 1. That throw, what was that, 2 weeks ago in the back of the end zone?
It was gross.
Oh my God. Wilson hit Lockett in the back corner, kind of like that Santonio Holmes Super Bowl throw back then, where it was just like there's the tiniest of window you can hit, and it takes perfection on the throw and perfection on the catch.
On the move too, yeah.
Seahawks, I think it might also depend on how that division shakes out. Like if they're a wild card team, maybe it goes the other way, whereas if they win the division, maybe he gets the MVP. Did you ever say who you thought was going to win the West? Did you say Seahawks, or are you still kind of torn?
I think the Seahawks will win the division.
Yeah,
because they probably split the games with San Francisco.
Yeah. Not to circle back to that whole conversation, the thing that I noticed this week with the Niners game, and I've noticed it a couple times now, is the weak part of that team is Jimmy G, which is weird.
Wild.
It's really weird, and it may not even be his fault. It might just be that they need more receiver help because his receivers are pretty bad. But,
that would be then.
But he's been off target a lot, and it's been kind of weird because I really like that guy, but the last couple of games, he's looked super shaky. Then again, you look at his career now record as a starter, he's 13-2, which is pretty insane. But
I keep seeing it everywhere, so I'm going to say it. How many years ago was it when him, Jacoby Brissett, and Tom Brady were on the same team?
Yeah, they were all on the same team, and now they're all 3 successful starting quarterbacks. It's wild. Crazy. The Patriots might know what they're doing.
They have a history, though, of them not working out.
Yeah,
Castle.
that was a thing before.
Yeah.
Castle, Hoyer, Ryan Mallett.
Yeah.
Got a job after leaving there.
I wanted to circle back to this because we were talking about it.
Sure.
You guys were not seeming like you were locked in on the Chiefs being the number 2 seed anymore. And looking at just the overall standings, obviously the Patriots are going to be the number 1.
Yeah, I think that's a lock at this point.
Yeah, we're not even going to talk about that. But for the 2 seed, you've got the Chiefs. Their main competition is Buffalo, Houston, and Baltimore.
Yeah,
Buffalo's
Buffalo,
not in
yeah.
contention because they're in the same division as the
Oh,
Patriots.
duh.
It goes by division
Stupid.
winners.
Yeah, my bad.
They might end up with a better record, but they'll have to be a wild card.
Right. So it's Houston and Baltimore. That's really it. So
I'd say Houston and Indy because it just depends on whoever
Yeah,
wins
I
that
think it's
division.
who wins the South.
Yeah.
okay, yeah. I mean, I guess it's a 1 or really a half game difference because
That's why
Indy
when
is
we were
3 and
talking
2.
about it, we were saying it's either the Chiefs or the winner of the South.
But so that's why I brought it up. So here's my question: is if the Chiefs are not the number 2 seed, who is? You kind of just convinced me Houston is. But
well,
who would
it's the
you
winner
put
of the
it's
there?
the winner of the South. So
Yeah.
I mean, whether it be Indy
So
or Houston,
Baltimore,
Houston
no.
has the better quarterback, so that's where I would lean.
Yeah, I would too. And like I was saying earlier, I love the Colts, and I think they're probably legit and going to make the playoffs too as a wild card. But it's going to be tough because there's just so many teams in such a tight group. I think
You can't convince me that the Colts lose Andrew Luck and then end up being a 2 seed
No,
that
no,
very
no.
next year.
I'm not
It's just not
saying-
going to happen.
Well,
no, I'm just
I mean,
saying.
that's kind of silly to say because they're playing really, really well and just beat the Chiefs.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. My novice opinion is that I think Houston will do it.
Well, sure, but that was also just because we convinced you of that.
I mean, they sound like they're really good, and
They are.
Deshaun Watson, if he's an
They
MVP
are.
candidate,
And Bill O'Brien was taking a lot of heat for the all-in moves he was making early in the year, but they've paid off so far. So I think Houston's totally in line for that number 2 seed if Kansas City decides to falter a little bit. Because I mean, what do they have? 2 losses now, Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
They could definitely lose 1 or 2 more.
and it's their last 2
And-
games. They started 4-0.
Yeah.
Questionable losses the last 2 games, but I'm gonna say the Chiefs. I'm still gonna give it to them. They'll be the number 2 seed.
It's going to depend on the health of Mahomes because he can overcome so much, even if that defense stays terrible, even if the rest of the offense is, kind of up and down. If he's there and healthy, they'll be fine.
Let's
They'll be
take a peek
fine.
at their schedule. Patriots are on it.
He's
Yeah.
got
We-
it. Well, I was gonna say Mahomes.
Do
has
We
a-
had
the thing
probably
that-
3 losses more on there, right? I was thinking 11
there's,
and 5.
there's a lot
probably.
of toss-up kind
take
of
a look.
games.
So Mahomes trying to get healthy has a short week this week because they're the Thursday night game. Then they have the
And Denver their defense looks way improved over the
Denver's
last
on
couple
the-
weeks.
on
Let's
the
go,
up and
Von
up.
Miller.
So-
Help me out.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got the Broncos, and then you have the Packers, and then you have the Vikings, then you have the Titans, Chargers, Raiders, Patriots, Broncos again, Bears, and Chargers.
That's a rough
tough.
remaining
It is.
schedule.
It's a very, very tough schedule.
Their non-conference opponents are all pretty stout. Or
doubt about it. I
non-division, my bad, non-division.
Yeah, I know what you meant. I think the other thing that we may be sleeping on is could Baltimore just get hot?
100%.
They might have they do have the weakest division. So
Yeah.
I
As
mean,
in
so
the
they're
2
gonna-
seed?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like we weren't even talking about them getting the 2 seed. They might just because these other teams are going to play tougher divisions, get beat up, take some losses, and Baltimore might not be the second best team, but they may just end up with the second best record.
Yeah, possibly. Hollywood Brown has to get healthy.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's, like we were saying before, he barely even practices, gets on the field, doesn't really play a full game, and then when he is on the field, always makes plays. But
So their division games, yeah, sure, man, but they've got the Bills, the 49ers, the Patriots, and the Seahawks
Brutal.
still on their schedule.
that's
So
brutal.
Yeah.
Those
They
are,
could lose all 4 of those.
yeah.
I mean, they could also win them. It's not.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
think
like
you've got
it's not like they have no chance against those teams. Baltimore's been in every game for the
Right.
most part. So I mean,
But you've got the top 3 because I think we can probably all agree that New England, San Francisco, and Seattle are probably the top 3 teams right now in the league.
I would disagree. I
So-
think the Saints are just as
I think
good
the
as
Saints.
pretty
I was
much
going to
any of
say
those
I think the
teams.
Saints are right there with all of those teams, but I don't know that that's consensus league wide. But I think in this room it probably is because we like the Niners a lot more, but I think a lot of teams or a lot of people are still sleeping on the Niners and don't think it's legit.
Either way, yeah, those top three are crazy, and then the Bills are, I don't know, top 6 or 7 in the league right now.
So it's really hard for the Bills not to get a wild card spot right now.
Yeah, I think just so the other thing I've said in the past too is with these wild card spots and with division spots, it doesn't really matter if you're one of the best 5 or 6 teams. You just got to pile wins, and the Bills are doing that, and they're. What are they, 5-1 right now?
4-1, I believe. Yeah,
and it's
just to the Patriots.
Yeah, and they only have the one loss, and it's to the Patriots. So they're doing their part in stacking wins. And so even if they aren't as good as some of the other teams, they're gonna have the wins to get in. They don't really have to be very good the rest of the way to still get to 10-6.
They still have both of their games against the Dolphins too.
Exactly. Yeah, that's 2 more wins. Speaking of, let's quick sidebar here. Did you guys see the end of that Dolphins game? The Dolphins are trying to lose these games.
I saw it. It was great.
They brought in Fitzpatrick. He makes a comeback. They're down by 7. Gerardo, did you see this?
Yeah, I saw the sequence of what happened.
So they score with like less than a minute left or whatever it was, and then go for 2 instead of kicking the extra point to tie, and run the worst 2-point conversion play of all time. A little like wide receiver screen where he dropped the ball, but was going to get tackled immediately anyway. It was just a horrible play call. It seemed like they intentionally lost that game. Like they didn't want to blow their tanking status. The Dolphins are a mess, but it's a very calculated mess.
The Bills on their schedule still have the Patriots, the Ravens, and the Cowboys, and the Eagles, and the Broncos.
Yeah. Lamar Jackson, I don't know where it was the last time we had a podcast, but he played a couple of not so great games. He looked a little more like last year's Lamar, where he was not throwing as well, and I don't know. But then this week went for 150 rushing yards and over 200 passing.
Goodness.
He was insane this week. And it's not even designed runs like they were doing last year. They were passing plays where he just saw the opening and took it. And if that's the offense they run, I love it. Because I don't like so much the designed runs. I like that he can just make those decisions.
He's also so fantastic at resetting his feet on those runs.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I was watching some highlights and just the last game they played.
He's a master of that.
Yeah, like a lot of those running quarterbacks, they make up their mind and they can't reset. He resets faster than anyone I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's brilliant at that. And I think he just has, from the coaching staff, a permanent green light now. Like when they call a passing play, he knows at any moment he's got that green light to run.
Well, I think it's more on him not wanting to run based on the conversations he's had with the media and whatnot. He doesn't really want that reception, but you got to use your tools.
That's
man.
the thing, and I don't think he's afraid to run because he had 150 rushing yards.
Not afraid to run.
No, I just mean like he's opposed to it. He's not opposed to it.
I think when it comes down to it, a team first guy. So maybe he doesn't want to do it, but if he knows this is how we're going to win, he's going to do it.
I think he came into the season with that, like you were saying, that kind of chip on the shoulder. Like he doesn't want people to think he's a run-first quarterback. That's why he made that comment early in the year. And I think he's already kind of past that. Like I think he proved he can throw the ball, and now he's not as concerned about that, and he's opening up with the feet again. And that's what I want. I want him to be running and doing both. Like you said, use your tools.
Yeah.
You're like the fastest quarterback to ever play, maybe other than Vic. So use it.
He's been making defenders look silly. It's awesome.
Rodo, do you have any other thoughts or any other things you needed us to cover?
No, there's nothing else I can think of.
The playoff races are pretty wild so far. I mean, we're only 6 weeks in, so it's tough to know how it's all going to shake out, but there's a lot of teams in the mix. You know what? One more thing. Michael, we've been talking about all these AFC playoff teams, and I know you've been restrained.
Yeah,
I know you. We told you beforehand you talk about the Raiders too much. I think it's in your. I think it's in your head a little bit. Tell us the Raiders are in this playoff mix.
Yeah, I mean.
That was more hesitant than I expected.
Because who were you thinking the wild card teams are? The Bills. And,
I think the Bills
and probably the Colts,
and whoever else wins,
or the Raiders, who
South.
have a tiebreaker on them for beating them.
That's what I'm saying, man.
So yeah, I think so, and I think think so.
Don't be afraid to hype up the Raiders, man. Don't be afraid.
Well,
This is a safe space.
I'm more hyped than a wild card.
You think you can take the Chiefs down?
I think they just might get taken down.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these teams aren't gearing up for the Raiders the way they are for teams like the Chiefs.
It's true.
Or the Browns. And, next thing you know, if they start stacking up wins against, they have a test against Green Bay this week. And then Houston, a couple really good teams.
We didn't have a podcast that week, but the Bears game, the Raiders took it to them.
Yeah,
the Raiders, that didn't look like a fluke. The Raiders looked like the better team on the field that day.
When things go to plan, like those first few drives, when things go to plan, John Gruden is as good as ever.
Yeah.
But, he can get tilted a little bit. But
yeah, we've always known that.
Yeah, he can get a little, takes a little bit to get back in the fight, but he came back on that final drive, said, hey, we have this great little running back who should probably be in contention for Rookie of the Year if I keep feeding him like I'm supposed to.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, they ran it right down their throats against a very good defensive Bears team. And they completely took Khalil Mack out the game. And if he can keep making up good game plans like that, then sure. But we have to wait and see.
So right now they're 3-2, right?
Yes.
So they're one game behind the Chiefs?
Yeah.
They played them. They played them really, really tough. They didn't look overmatched in that game.
Yeah, I think I said it. It was more about coming out the man defense, which was the Patriots' blueprint on them.
Yeah. And we didn't really talk about that in the Chiefs conversation, but that's what everybody's doing now. Everybody kind of has the way to play the Chiefs, and it's working. Whether or not they lose every game, it's definitely slowing them down.
Yeah.
And it's disrupting them, running that man, getting pressure with the front four. If you don't blitz on these pass-happy teams, if you can get pressure with your front four without blitzing, that's the way to stop them or slow them down. No, we'll not say stop them.
Yeah, and the Chiefs, already their offensive line is the weakest part of that offense, and now they're dealing with injuries.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. Because we know Patrick Mahomes can beat man coverage because he's good enough.
Yeah.
But are those receivers good enough to run crisp routes? Because they're more of a running the spot team, which is great against zone defenses, and they can find the holes, and they're doing a great job of that. But if you can stick them to man, I think
we've just seen it now 3-4 times where teams have stuck to the man coverage and really disrupted their offense. So I don't know if maybe more teams are doing that now. They might have a rougher season
Chiefs
than
play
we're
some
thinking.
good defenses.
We did. Yeah, we covered. They've got some good teams on the schedule. So I'm not counting the Raiders out. Let's talk about some of the games we have this week, because looking over it, it is a beautiful slate of games this week. So we've got Dolphins-Bills. How great of a game. No, nobody's on that one. Okay.
Hard pass.
That one's a 17-point spread, so that's a bad one. But Raiders-Packers, like Michael mentioned, that's a pretty solid game. Texans-Colts, like we've been saying, that's kind of for the division lead in the South. We've got
Ravens-Seahawks.
Ravens at Seahawks. That might be the number one game of the week. Saints at Bears. That's another really fun one.
Eagles and Cowboys,
the Sunday night game for first place in the East.
Vikings-Lions. Danny Dimes versus Kyler Murray.
Yeah. I thought you were joking when you started that, but no, that's a fun matchup of rookie quarterbacks.
Cowboys and Eagles are going to tie. The Giants are going to win, and all of a sudden we got a race.
That could happen. Call me crazy. Have you watched any of the Cardinals lately?
Yeah.
They've looked pretty good the last couple weeks. Like maybe playing the Falcons just makes you look better than you are, but the Cardinals aren't any good, so that I don't know if competition really matters as much when you are also a bad team.
Yeah,
but
they get Pat Pete back this week, so
like every time I see them because they're always in the afternoon when there's not a lot of games on. Every time I see them, like Kyler Murray's running around and throwing some beautiful throws. They're looking a lot better than I thought they would be. I thought they'd win 2 games all year, and they've already got 2 and a tie, and they've looked pretty competitive. I don't know. I'm kind of impressed. I'm not going too far with it, but they're just better and more entertaining than I expected.
They're a nice little 5-11 team.
Well, won't be 5-11 because they have a tie.
5-10-1.
Yeah, which
ties or losses changed my mind.
Tell that to the playoffs because it matters come playoff time when teams have ties in the mix. But
so am I seeing this right? That because I know we started doing the picks last time I was here. I went 3-1 that week. I don't even remember. Looks like you went 4-0, and I remember you telling me that.
I went 4-0. You went 3-1, and I think Michael was 1-3.
2-2.
2-2. Yeah.
All right, I'll take 3-1.
So
let's do that again.
All right. And as a quick recap for anybody not familiar with how spread betting works, so basically, they put a spread on the game. Vegas decides how much they think the separation is between the two teams. So the favorite will be, minus, for example, maybe 3.5. So then that favorite has to win by that many points for you to win the bet. Or if you pick the underdog plus 3.5 for in that example, they just have to come within that many points for you to win the bet. So with that, do you want me to start? Okay, I'll start first. So I am taking, which by the way, we didn't talk at all on this podcast about the Vikings, which is fine. I don't want to jinx it, but they've played really well the last couple games. I'm taking them minus 1.5 versus the Lions. So that one, I think actually, do I have all favorites? I think I have all favorites this week. I've got them minus 1.5 versus the Lions. I take the Jags minus 3.5 against the Bengals. I've got the Rams, who I think are going to be pumped up after this trade. They're minus 3 against the Falcons. Also, I think the Falcons are terrible. So that one I'm pretty confident in. And Cowboys minus 3 against the Eagles on the Sunday Night Football game. Like I said.
Taking the Cowboys?
Yes, I am taking the Cowboys. That secondary was so bad. I think the Cowboys are going to get right. They're going to have a good passing game. I think the Cowboys win that game by 2 scores. I'm really confident in that one. I think that's their bounce back.
So I'm taking some underdogs this week.
All
Besides, we agree on the Rams. I think they should blow them out.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gerardo.
That was kind of a questionable line for that to
Yeah.
only be 3 points. That was
Wild.
weird.
I also have the Eagles winning that game. So, a couple there.
Okay, that's a fun one.
And I got the Raiders as the underdog by 5.5 on the Packers.
That was the next one I was thinking about taking, but I knew you were going to take them, so I left it off. But I think the Raiders win that game.
And then I got the big upset of the week because I don't know how it's only 3 points, but I got the Broncos over the Chiefs.
Ooh.
They have them down 3 points. I think there's a shot that if that pass rush is really back right now, this is not what the Chiefs need. So
that's a good
there's a
point.
chance that it's a low scoring game that maybe it's 10-7.
They could get to him early and make that ankle feel a little worse. Gerardo?
All right. So, yeah, I also got the Rams thrashing the Falcons in Atlanta this week. I think it's probably minus 3 only because it's in Atlanta, but let's not forget that the Falcons got dominated by the Titans at home. So, and probably because the Rams are average this year, but they'll bounce back. And that's my first one. I've got San Francisco covering 9.5 against Washington. I think that's pretty easy.
Yep.
The Chargers are actually 2-point underdogs at Tennessee. I think that they cover that.
Yeah, I think they can win that
Probably
game.
win that game. And
I'm not so sure about that. I think the Titans take that game. I think the Chargers are a complete mess. Like I said a few times in this episode, they look really, really bad. So I would take the Titans in that game. But
they're a really talented team that's underperformed. So if they're going to get right, they've got to do it against a team like the Titans.
A team that's going through a quarterback change right now.
yeah, we didn't even mention that. But yeah, Mariota got benched. They're starting Ryan Tannehill this week.
Yeah, give me the Chargers in that game. And then I think the Patriots will cover 10.5 against the Jets on Monday night. Or I'm sorry, not 10.5, just 10. So that's my fourth one. Michael, you look kind of shocked at that.
It's just a lot of points.
Did we
points,
even talk
and
about
they're
the
not
Cowboys?
scoring, yeah.
Did we talk about the Cowboys-Jets game?
No, we didn't.
We didn't talk about the Cowboys
You know
much
who
at
won
all.
that game?
Yeah, the Jets.
Okay.
Let's
The Patriots are in a different league
What is the
against
record?
most opponents, including the Jets,
What
man.
is their
They are
record
going to
with
cover 10 points.
Darnold right now this year?
I don't know.
1-1.
So there's a shot,
Cool. We'll see what happens Monday night.
It's a division game.
So-
They're usually relatively close.
The Jets last week looked really good. Like, I mean, despite how the Cowboys might be imploding, they looked really solid. Their passing game was clicking. I'm not at all saying they're going to beat the Patriots. Don't misunderstand that. But I'm just saying I think they're better than people are giving them credit for. Not you specifically.
You think they're going to cover 10? Because Michael doesn't.
No, I do think they're
He
going
thinks
to
they
cover 10.
will. Though he thinks the Jets will
the
cover.
Patriots. I'm sorry. You think the Patriots will cover 10 against the Jets?
I think the Jets cover. I think that's like a 7 or 8 point game.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm thinking right in there,
I
like
think
a
at
round one
most.
score.
Okay.
Because
I think
they
the
just
Jet-
haven't done much offensively this year. Unless, the defense could score some points. Absolutely, that could happen.
We'll see.
I think there's a good chance that we look absolutely foolish after a monstrous blowout.
I've got something to look forward to now.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be exciting just because you two are against me on this one, and then you two were against each other on the Cowboys and Eagles game. So we've got some nice little...
we didn't pick that game, though. We didn't put it on our picks. But
didn't you? Because you
the
picked...
Jets game?
No, Cowboys-Eagles.
No, we
Cowboys.
You
Eagles.
picked the Eagles, and
I
Michael
was
and
just
Matt,
talking
you picked the
about- I was
Cowboys.
talking
So
about the
funny. A
Jets
couple
right now.
weeks ago, Matt was all in on the Eagles against the Packers. It's kind of
And
Yeah, I remember that.
who won that game?
I know who won. The
I don't
game.
remember.
I remember.
Yeah,
Do you
but I
remember?
think you thought it was going to be
Yeah.
a blowout.
They won the game.
Okay. Didn't you pick them, though,
What do you mean?
to cover a certain spread, and they didn't? No, you were
No, they
4-0.
did.
Never
They
mind.
won.
They won.
They won.
They were
It's
the
just
underdog and they
now all of
won.
a sudden they're not a good team. So
Yeah, all right.
I just think so
they're not playing the Packers this week,
that
so they're a
was-
bad team.
No, that's not it. I just think the Packers, I saw the flaws in the Packers and what can exploit them, and I was right. I don't know how that mocks
you
me.
saw Devontae Adams getting a turf toe.
That's the only reason they lost that game?
100%. They would have. Dude.
Okay, let's get into it. They should not have beat the Lions this week.
100%. Agreed.
It's absurd that the Lions lost that game. The officiating handed the Packers a victory.
it was-
Packers get to play with more than 11 men on the field.
They do. And it happens often. It happens more than just this week. The Packers routinely get that kind of advantage. But what I'm saying is the Packers are not a 5-1 quality team. They're just not. And none of the metrics, none of the statistics show that they should be 5-1. Their record is vastly over where their performance has been. So I get it. I'm a hater. I hate the Packers, but every statistical metric backs me up on that. So let's not go too far with it.
I mean, the record is a statistical
It
metric.
absolutely is. That's what I'm saying. But it doesn't mean that carries through the year. They don't just keep winning fluke games all year long like they've done.
I mean,
in the first
my
six.
point was about the Eagles winning.
Right. And the Eagles are a very talented team. I think they're just currently in a bit of a funk that I don't think they get out of this week.
I think they do.
If I somehow don't make it back for any podcasts the rest of the regular season, make sure I'm back for the playoffs because I want to see
playoffs?
I want to see Matt's face when the Packers are the number 2 seed this year.
The Packers are 5-1. I did a whole topic about how accumulating wins matters. The Packers are setting themselves up for a great playoff spot just because they've won games early in the year.
Yeah, I said that.
That doesn't
in
mean
jest,
they're going
though.
to be a top tier team.
They're not.
And they currently have not performed like one.
I don't think they
But
are.
they're piling wins just like the Bills. So
You've got San Francisco, Seattle, and New Orleans, plus the Bears.
the Packers will not win this division. The Packers are
I said I want to be
winning the
back
NFC
to see your
North.
face when they win the number
So-
2 seed. So
I think they've got a
At
really good
most-
shot at wild
At
card,
most,
though.
they're splitting this division. Am I wrong there?
No, they're already 3-0 in the
I know.
division.
So at best for you,
Yeah.
with your, it's just that's at best.
they've got, what, a 1-game lead? Because Vikings are 4-2, right?
Yeah.
So it's a 1-game lead.
Well,
And 2 over Chicago, or game and a half, because I think Chicago played one last game.
yeah, they just had their
Yeah,
bye.
Chicago's 3-2.
I think
you
division
even-
record matters.
You
and
even
they're
admitted the Lions should have beat them.
100%.
And you don't think the Lions are that legit, right?
I think it's a division opponent, and we just talked about how
And
divisional games
Right.
are different.
They are. But in each of those games, the Bears game, the Vikings game, and the Lions game, they barely won in pretty fluky fashion.
games.
I'm
are-
just saying, I'm not
They-
talking about what they've previously done. I'm projecting forward.
So if this is one of those years where the ball bounces their way, it is what it is.
It does happen that way sometimes, where you just get that streak of continuous luck all throughout the year. Right now, they do have that, but
Believe me, I am on your side with the refereeing of the game against the Lions.
that game was a disgrace.
Yes.
Anyway, let's move. Let's wrap it up. Follow me on Twitter, Matt Talk Sports. Rate and review the show, please. We need to get back on the charts. You got something more to say, Gerardo?
No, man, I just was wondering if we're all going to get to plug our Twitters.
Oh, do you want to? Feel free.
Sure, man, that's fine. If I even remember mine, it's
I don't even know my Twitter handle.
_ Gerardo Valdez _ That's GERARDO VALDEZ. Yours is TLOD _ MAB, I think.
That sounds right.
Follow us on Twitter, man. We'll.
All right. Well, that was a confident plug there. You don't even know for sure. But anyway.
We'll be laughing when I'm at 1,000 followers next week.
More importantly, if you have 1,000 people that are listening to this, rate the show. We need to get on the charts. I don't want to be unranked anymore. All right. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Gerardo. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, man. See you.